This is Jane Marie.
And this is Soko.
You are now listening to the Queer Ambition Podcast.
The Queer Ambition Podcast is the only podcast celebrating rising LGBTQ professionals,
providing advice on navigating the modern workplace,
and discussing polarizing topics within the community.
Now listen up.
Okay. So we have Zayn here with us on the podcast, and I'm going to just introduce him. With over 5 years of experience coaching youth, public speaking, activism, and then more than 8 years of experiencing life as a trans male, Zayn is a mentor for LGBT youth across the United States and also has an online project called TransAlike, which helps donate essentials to trans youth in need all over the world. Welcome to the podcast, Zayn.
Welcome,
Thank you
Zayn.
so much. Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I just came from the gym, so I'm feeling really good.
All right,
Okay.
pumping iron, I see.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Planet Fitness, so I had pizza before I worked out.
Okay.
But I feel good.
Okay. All right, good. So just to start, we just want to get the blood flowing and have some icebreaker questions.
Yeah.
So the first question is for you. What is the best pickup line that has ever been used on you?
Has ever worked for me? Oh, man. To be honest, I date a lot on dating sites.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll usually, I feel like usually I see the same thing, like they say drinks and wings, or they want to catch a movie or something. So I'll just say like, I'm down for wings and drinks or something if they're down for it. I'll probably be like, so do you want to go with me, or what are you into? Do you want
That's not a pickup line.
Yeah. It's not. I try to use my charm instead of a pickup line. I'm not good with those, but I just use my charm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think.
So go.
That's pickup line.
I feel like someone has definitely used one on you.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of them. I'm like, I can't. Best pickup line. I don't think any of them are really that good. Yeah. What's the one? Okay. This corny ass one. It's not the best, and I'm gonna pick the corniest. Not the best.
Okay.
This old. Are you tired? No. Why? Because you've been running through my mind all day, or you've been running through my mind all day that you're about to win an Olympic medal. There you go.
Oh wow! All right. So he wasn't exactly trying to pick me up, but he was complimenting me, and he told me they named seats after you because you're first class.
Oh wow!
Right? Isn't that super cheesy? But I was like,
wow.
It's ridiculous, and I love it. So it worked. It worked. Panties dropped. You know, that's what happened.
On site.
Next question for Soko. What flavor ice cream would you be and why?
Okay. Damn, this is gonna be a basic party cake ice cream. That's exactly. Why? Because I love sweets, and party cake is a really sweet ice cream, but then it also has all these different colors and they're bright, and then it's a party. I mean,
Perfect. Zayn, what kind of ice cream are you and why?
I would probably be strawberry cheesecake.
Interesting.
It's the nice ice cream, and then you bite into it, and there's the chunks of the cheesecake in it, and it's my favorite ice cream, so I would be that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Try that.
All right. Rocky Road. Definitely Rocky Road, because I can be much, in general, the experience is a rocky road. I'm going to be Rocky Road ice cream.
Okay.
Okay, guys, last question. Which language would you love to learn? Soko.
Nah, you.
Japanese. I would love to learn Japanese. Yeah. I think it would be super hard, and I would feel like such a badass if I could learn that language. Japanese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn, this one's hard because I have I'm just gonna say I wish I was better at Spanish. Like I know some Spanish, I can carry like little things, but I wish I was fluent because I think that would just really be a good look.
Okay.
Yeah. I would probably say Arabic because I have some Egyptian family, and it would be nice to be able to communicate with them other than like their broken English that nobody understands. And it sounds like they're yelling at you, but I would definitely want to learn Arabic.
Okay. All right.
Okay, guys, good answers. We're going to travel the world one day and do all these things. All right, now we're going to jump into this interview, Zayn, and we're really excited to have you on for so many reasons. You are, I think he's like our third male featured guest with us, but we have to mix it up because we have so much female power going on here that it's welcome to have you with us.
Thank you.
So just to start, can you just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how growing up was for you?
So like you said, I identify as a trans male. I grew up in a very religious household. I grew up in Brooklyn. Both of my parents are very religious, and my family actually owns a few churches in the Northeast side. So there are tons of, almost every aunt and uncle is a pastor or a minister. So it was kind of tough growing up in a religious home. Like I wasn't allowed to do, like things like watch cartoons. I was only watching like Matlock and like Murder, She Wrote or things like that. And that continued up until I was about up until I was about 17, 18. Just being confined to my family, going to church from Sunday to Sunday, teaching Bible school when I was 12, teaching any kind of extracurricular activity with my church youth group when I was younger. And coming out as trans definitely wasn't something that they had planned for me, or that they say that God had planned for me. So it was pretty difficult coming out to my parents and coming out to my church's congregation, and being stripped of mostly everything that I had done in the church because I was no longer invited after.
Wow. So you said coming out as trans, and why do you describe it that way? Just curious.
Because I didn't know that I was trans. It was a coming out process for myself too, because I didn't feel gay. I identified as a lesbian. I didn't feel like I was a lesbian, but I knew that something just wasn't right. And it took a long time for me to understand that I had gender dysphoria. I didn't really have body dysphoria. I just had gender dysphoria. So because of my lack of body dysphoria, it was hard for me to determine what I was or who I was. So learning the term transgender and understanding that I could be transgender without body dysphoria but still decide to physically transition was kind of a rocky road, and there wasn't much education on that at that time. So it was a coming out process for myself and for my family because they had no idea, because like I said, I didn't have any kinds of signs of physical or viewable body dysphoria.
Yeah, what is the difference?
Well, that's one question. What's the difference?
Yeah, so gender dysphoria is where you just feel like you don't identify as that gender. There's discomfort in your gender identity, the gender that you were assigned at birth. And then body dysphoria, anyone that is not trans or trans can have body dysphoria. So you can be cisgender and say, I don't connect with my body. Maybe you feel you're too skinny or you're too fat, or you're just not looking how you feel you should look. That is body dysphoria. So I didn't have any of that. I felt like I was okay with my body, but I knew that my gender wasn't something that I was comfortable with. So,
and I've never heard of those two terms before, and I like to think I'm like worldly, but I guess all the stories I hear most of the time are like, I knew from the beginning I was 1 year old, I was wearing dresses, I was doing this. Where you're coming from, it's like, it was a coming out process. Mm-hmm. So I think that's almost even harder. Like, how do you even recognize it? And work through those feelings and emotions. Like, you don't know what's going on.
No, yeah, that was definitely a huge part of my transition was that I was very vocal in the trans community. However, I was not comfortable with physically transitioning. So there was a lot of learning that I did and a lot of learning that people that interacted with me got. But it was definitely an adventure for everyone that was included.
Yeah. All right. So that was like around 17, 18 then?
Yeah, I discovered the term transgender when I was 17, and then I came out to my family. I came out to my parents about like 3 times up until I physically transitioned, because they weren't getting it. They weren't understanding what I was saying, and I think because I wasn't fully understanding what I was saying as well. So
right.
Why is there such a separation for religious people between the way that people identify in terms of their gender, from your perspective and from, you dealing with your family? How did you work through that?
I think what I focused on mainly, I think that at first, like when I came out as lesbian, I think I was focusing on just my understanding and me, like what I knew about myself. But it took me a lot of years to understand only for my parents specifically, to understand from a parent's point of view, to understand from a religious point of view, and to use the language that they understood. So I had to dig deep and do a lot of praying and try to find a person in the Bible that I thought was similar to me, or someone that had gone through something. And to use that story as that. So I used David from the Bible, and I explained to my mother how David, wrote Psalms when he was depressed and he was going through a suicidal moment. And even for him, someone that was so in love with God, he was asking why had God forsaken him. And so I had explained to her that David was in a transition period about to become king. And so I told her that this was my transitional period. And so I was currently in that state where I was feeling depressed and isolated, and that all of the chapters of my life now were me creating Psalms as to me transitioning into the person I wanted to be. And when I said it to her that way, I think after all the screaming and fighting and getting kicked out and coming back to my parents and saying like, this is an important message, they understood that I was being serious and I wasn't making this up, and I had done tons of research, and they know that I love God and I still believe in God, but they just, they have their own opinions on everything. So yeah,
so let me probe on that a little bit. Being trans and religious, usually, LGBT and religion, are not usually something that, both people really believe in both things. But do you think, I'm going to throw this out there, that you still being religious and, holding on to your values almost helped your parents and your family around you support you more?
No, I don't think so, because there has to be that trust from them that I even believe in God. And there's a lot of my family that doesn't. They think, well, if you're trans, how could you possibly believe in God? And I don't. It wasn't for my father. For my mother, my mother has seen my spiritual growth more than anyone personally. So she understood from that point, but she was the only person out of my entire family. So it's still a work in progress.
Okay. All right.
And that they don't trust that you believe in God.
Yeah, that's because that's always the argument. Well, if you believe in God, why are you doing this? Or if you believe in God, how can God not give you the spirit of discernment for this? And so, I explained to them that was my spirit of discernment to begin transitioning. I was in a phase where I was feeling like I was going to live unhappy for the rest of my life. And then when I realized that, God gives you life to live abundantly in joy and happiness, that changed for me. So we are just at a point where we understand that we have different views.
I understand. So how did you manage your mental health during this time of transition?
It was really hard because, like I was saying, I wasn't having signs of body dysphoria. I knew that I just didn't connect with my body. It wasn't a hate for it. It was just a disconnection. And I had just reached the point. I was very self-hating as a Black trans man, and Latinx person. And so I'd finally gotten to a point where I loved my colored skin and I loved everything about me. And so at that point, then about 2 months later, I identified as trans. And I was so overwhelmed with that joy of loving myself and thinking that my curly hair was beautiful and thinking that my shape was beautiful, that when it came to transitioning, I couldn't get to a point where I was saying, I want to change this. So I went through a lot of years of just loving my body and loving myself. And then I came to a point where I decided to transition. So there was a lot of ups and downs where I was going through depression and isolation. But it was my faith that helped me through everything completely, 100%.
And where would you say your mental health to then to like now? Like, are you in a good place now?
Yeah, I'm in a great place now. Like I'm in a place where I'm just like, I'm thanking God every day for waking up and just being so grateful for having the opportunity to physically transition and see myself for the first time. It's like seeing an old friend that you haven't seen in forever. And if it wasn't for my faith, I never would have gotten to this place, to this point. So, yeah.
So you recently just, you had a milestone. You were able to successfully have your top surgery.
Yes.
Would you mind telling us about that? Or is that something that you'd rather not speak about? Or
No, that's fine. It was great. I work for a tech company, and I was blessed with great health insurance. So I was able to get most of my top surgery covered. Which
wow!
Was really
Wait! Yeah. I did not know that you can do that.
Yeah, so technically, they're supposed to be covering it because it is in connection with gender dysphoria, which is in connection with a mental illness, which that would be the solution for gender dysphoria, right? So my health insurance covered about 89% of my surgery, which was fantastic because it originally would have been like $12,000, but it was good. I only paid a couple thousand, and I was able to go to Texas, get my surgery, and it's a newer procedure too, so it was great. I was super excited.
What do you mean newer procedure?
Just without the drains. There's a lot of surgeons that do drains. They put drains in your chest so they can take all the blood out, but there's a new procedure where they just allow your body to heal itself. So you have no drains. You just wear a medical binder for about 3 weeks longer than a person that had drains would have done it. And that's it. And then it's fine. And I've been doing really good.
Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah.
You had mentioned before that you didn't have body dysmorphia. So what made you make that decision?
It was more of a health decision for me. Although I am very excited about it and everything, but I was a 32 double D. It was not, I was wearing a binder every day to appear masculine, more for safety reasons. Because if they, I'm afraid if I'm in Brooklyn and they see a guy with big boobs, they're gonna be like, what the hell's going on? Yeah. So I did it more for safety and for health. And breast cancer runs very, very high in my family. On both sides, almost every woman has died from breast cancer. So I was kind of like, I was already thinking about this before I even realized I was trans. I was already thinking about it, but the fact that I was trans was like, okay, great, this is perfect. And yeah, I mean, I feel great not having to wear a bra or not having to wear a binder, like just putting on a t-shirt. So I'm really comfortable with it. I'm glad that I did it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I know that a lot of people struggle with having the access to get that done. So I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you're able to.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
what kind of advice would you give yourself 10 years ago?
10 years ago? I would have told myself to listen to myself more. That if I was feeling uncomfortable with myself, that meant something. That it wasn't just me being the black sheep. It wasn't just me being the oddball of the family. That my feelings were very valid. And I wish I would have addressed my gender dysphoria a lot earlier in my life, because I was doing little things, not like playing with toys, like race cars or anything like that. I was just doing little things that showed me that now as an adult, I look back and I'm like, I was doing these things that weren't really okay. And I'm like, I could have prevented doing those things or anything like that if I would have just paid attention to myself a little bit more.
Okay.
Could you tell us a little bit more about TransAlike and your mission there?
Yeah, so TransAlike actually made, when I was kind of in a dark place in my life, I didn't have, even though I live in New York, right, there's not that many POC trans exclusive places. And I was looking for that. And I had gone to a couple of other groups, and I didn't really, whether I didn't agree with their message or maybe I just didn't feel connected to the people that were there, I realized that I was lacking support. I had always been a nerd. I had always been online, and I was like, I'm always online. I love to be online. I love to be on social media. I don't see a high presence of POC trans folk, especially in the trans male community, is mostly white trans men. I was like, why not? What do I have to lose? Like, I consider myself Christian and I'm a trans person. I'm pretty sure that there are other POC trans folk out there that believe in God, that were probably rejected and just need someone to talk to. And because I had been taken away from the ministry that I was doing in my church, I figured, like, what's going to stop me from doing ministry? Like, I can do it anywhere. So I made TransAlike, and it was more of just my Tumblr, just talking to people and telling them that I believed in God and I was trans at the same time and it was possible. And then it went to a little bit more, and then I made it, like a nonprofit business. And now it's an online-based support system where I can help you if you need if you're in local for me, I can help you go get your first hormonal shot. You don't have anyone to go with. I can help you get a binder. I just do the support in terms of spiritual support, spiritual counseling for anyone that believes in God or whatever they believe. It doesn't matter. They don't have to identify as Christian. And then I just do regular counseling as much as I can, but I do partner with the Trevor Project and with GC2B and the Trans Hotline Suicide Prevention. So I'm more of a bridge to the resource. Like, I'm more of just tell me about yourself and let me find the right people to connect you.
That's dope. That's really dope, because a lot of people need that. People, especially like you said, you're in New York, you think that there's so many places for that when there's
not. There's like none, actually.
So when did TransAlike start for you? When did that start up? What year was that?
It started in 2016.
Okay. All right.
2016.
That's awesome. Making just, great progress. Like, what do you see for TransAlike? What do you want the end goal for it to be?
My end goal, I always say, is to have a center in New York. That is when I know I made it. When I can have a center and it is for POC and it's for queer, trans, non-binary, anything under the trans umbrella, a place where people could just come and get resources, or if they need shelter, if they need food, if they need clothing, if they need help applying for jobs, just a support center where they can get the necessary skills and necessary attention to get all of the medical or mental or emotional to fit their emotional needs. So have you thought about like the steps of opening a center like that? Because in my head, I'm like, I wonder if like the government, that's a nonprofit, okay? Does the government have like grants for that? Like, then grant writing, all of that stuff. So like, have you thought about any of those, things? I have. The thing is that I would have to have 3 employees. And I had an instance where I did hire someone and they were hacking into my things. So I'm really very particular about who I'm choosing as an employee or who's going to be representing my brand. Because when you build it yourself, I can imagine you guys feel the same way. Like when you build something yourself, you're just like extremely protective over it.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm going to do all of the hard work first until I can, hire professionals and everything. I'm more than happy to wait. I don't trust nobody. It's like leaving your baby with a babysitter. It's like you don't trust nobody. You can't trust nobody.
You gotta get that shit right.
Yeah.
I have one, maybe two, maybe one. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
If you could, because you've become kind of like this figure, this public figure for other trans youth, and I just see people just gravitating towards you, and you're very popular. As you know, I'm just curious. Obviously, I'm curious. Like, if you when you do speak to people that are maybe confused or curious or wondering if they want to go down this path, what do you say to those people? And what would you say to people that may be watching this now?
Well, I ask them a lot about what they're thinking and what they're feeling, and what are things that they've done in the past, or, you know, who is there to support them. I tell them to listen to themselves. You know, I get a lot of teenagers. I mean, I've gotten as young as a 5-year-old, a parent with a 5-year-old asking me questions. And so it really is listening to yourself. You know yourself more than anyone else. You have been with yourself more than anyone else. And even at a young age, a lot of adults and a lot of programming tells youth that they're not very important, that their voice doesn't really matter, that until they're a certain age. And I let them know that the fact that they're even reaching out to me is such a huge step, that they took the hardest step they could have ever taken. And that the best part about life is figuring out who you are. You're always going to be wondering who you are. You're always growing and you're always moving. So I let them know that they're not the only ones that are going through this, that even myself as a trans adult, I'm figuring out my transition every single day, and that's okay. But I tell them to make sure that they have support, that if they need support or they need anything in regards to safety, that those things are priority over what they're doing. You know, I can only suggest that, but it makes a huge difference when you're homeless and being trans, or when you are at home and you're just saving money and you're making a plan and you're taking care of yourself. That's it. I know some situations are different than others, but I focus on safety first, and then let's move on to what we can do at your age or whatever you need done.
Okay. That's great. That's great advice. Thank you. Thank you so much. Soko, do you have anything else?
I am good. You are such a beautiful soul. So I'm just like, and watching you glow with that light. So I'm just like,
oh my God, I have to show you this light. I'm going to send you a picture of it so you can see what it is. They're really good too. You can make them any color you want.
We encourage you to visit www.transalike.com. Also follow Zayn at _ Aura.
You're the only person that has said it right. The only person.
So what is that? What is Pantheon Aura?
A pantheon is a coliseum that allows all deities to rest in one place. So it's basically like saying you can coexist. That you can coexist no matter what religion you believe in. So that's
okay, fancy.
I know, right?
Okay. Mine's just Soko Ono.
Subscribe to TransAlike on YouTube, and we'll have all of that in the description below. Zayn, thank you so much for joining us. And even though you don't remember me, that's fine.
Oh my God. Well, that just means we need to hang out again.
Yes, we do.
That just means that. Wait, and one more thing. I do monthly binder giveaways for trans men. I'm trying to do other, or for trans masculine, I'm trying to do other things. But right now, I do give 50 binders for free. They're brand new every single month. So they can check out my website and my Instagram for that.
Wow.
Okay. That's and awesome. We will also support you in that. If you have that coming up, send it to us and we will reshare it for sure.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure talking to you guys.